Doc here from North America. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to some people out there. And what do we got going on already? It's TGIM. Thank God it's Monday. And so where do we start off? We always start, we not always, we nowadays start off with the Swiss franc because we see that as an expression of where the dollar is. And so when we know where the dollar is heading, obviously we get a better grip on the different pairs trades. Hey, que pasa? How are you, IVB? Good to see you. Some wild action here in the States. We're just, it's really crazy stuff going on. And it seems like, I don't know, from your advantage, being a neighbor in Medico, basically, it looks like the markets are starting to price in a Trump victory has happened, like a confirmation. I saw it last week when that story came out. It seemed to act, it seemed to act extremely odd out of nowhere. It just shifted gears with a whole different rhythm. And at the time, I thought, is this really the beginning of a confirmation that Trump has won successfully? Yeah. It's bleeding over, isn't it? I guess we're coming out of Cyprus. I think that's what it is, right? Was that Russian oligarchs or something like that? Lean hog information, cool. Yes, yeah. So was it bar charts? Seems to be carrying our charts or something, our data now. I know. Isn't that kind of neat? Doc is Mr. Global. Global from South Jersey, USA. We're global. All right. Yeah. Would you like to look at the hogs? I can tune in hogs. Not afraid to look at hogs. Hogs are acting really well here. Let's go to hogs. I guess it's as we've said throughout the last couple years, money is anything that's denominated in dollars has been used as a surrogate for the dollar. And so we've seen that. We've kind of drifted away from that. We haven't been involved in that as much. If you want DOPC, I say yes, I agree. I still expect Trump to win even when polls indicate, well, the polls are just part of some type of disinformation game being played like, as normal. This is turning into, if anybody, have you ever heard of Watergate? There was this thing back in 1972, 73. A sitting president, his name was Richard Nixon, and what he did is he sent in a covert, I guess you'd call it a private militia. They were former CIA and military, and they wanted to know if the Soviets were pouring money into the McGovern campaign, because McGovern at one time was with Wallace. And I think he was one of the candidates that was going to be the vice president for Vice President Wallace. Vice President Wallace was a communist, and he was the vice president to Mr. Roosevelt. And and when Mr. Roosevelt got really ill, the Democrat Party removed Wallace off the ticket. In other words, he had been sitting vice president for 4 years, and they put in Harry Truman. So anyway, Mr. Wallace had run right after he was removed as the vice president. He ran on the communist ticket for president of the United States, and George McGovern was a young, strong progressive, whatever they called themselves back then, and they called themselves progressives, and they had a progressive party, and so what happened was Mr. McGovern, who was now in 1972 running for president of the United States on the Democrat ticket, there was concern that the Soviets were piling in tons of money into the Democrat Party, and so Richard Nixon hired a bunch of expatriates to break in there to take a look and see if there was a bunch of cash sitting in the in their safe, and that was Watergate, and so. What happened was you fast forward, I guess now? Is it a fast forward? I don't know what you do anymore. Anyway, end result is that you know, the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton and the CIA and the FBI all worked together to eliminate Mr. Trump before he was elected. And then when he got elected, they spent 3.5 years trying to frame him of being a Russian agent. And so what we have here is something way worse than Watergate. And it won't go away. It doesn't matter. I mean, even if let's put it this way, if Mr. Trump lost the election, it wouldn't go away, because the country would probably break up into two camps, and there would still, in other words, the Federal Republic would break up. People don't understand. The U.S. military is not allowed to operate in the United States, and also it's not allowed to operate under any foreign leader at the same time. So it's a very, the way the founding fathers designed this whole system is the Federal Republic can be broken up and then reorganized again without hindering the United States overall. So either way, it's going to finish itself out. And so Facebook and Twitter and the FBI and CIA and all those people can play their games as much as they want with one side of the political spectrum, but in the end result is they will be held accountable, because the system is designed to do that. So it'll be interesting to see play out. But all I can say is I see a different characteristic in our markets at the moment. There's no doubt in my mind. I see something else going on. I saw it started last Tuesday. I mentioned it then in the webinar, and I mentioned it Wednesday in the webinar, and now you can really see it coming out. Doc recognizes certain characteristics in a market, being in the market for 40 some odd years. And I can see that the market now is acting. And let me stop there and try to explain it a little bit, and then I'll put the hogs up for you. Let me put the hogs up as I'm talking. And so what happens is that the markets, you can see the way the demand and supply are moving and the volumes, and you can see the way they flow. You can see those things through volume and so forth, as much as black pools and so forth have hidden it. And I can see last Tuesday I saw a whole different shift in the flow, and each day last week kept it up, and you can see them gap down, and on I think it was Thursday they gapped down, and what they did is they came right back again, and so in other words it looked like just some fast profit taking, not an epistemic like, oh God, we got to get out of the market, it's going to crash. There's a difference. There's a different characteristic when markets are selling off for profit taking versus calamity. At least I can recognize it. And I did that during the webinars in February. And matter of fact, was it late January? I was talking about putting collars on, option collars to hedge portfolios. I talked about that in January, late January. I talked about it in February, and the markets collapsed because they were acting like they wanted to collapse, not that they wanted to. The selling was, at the time I was seeing selling going on that was not rational. In other words, it wasn't like, oh, I'm profit taking, or oh, I'm getting out. It was more of, oh, I'm getting out because this market is going to collapse. That's what it was. And so let me give you the hogs now. See, there's deck hogs right there. There's deck hogs. You can see our work on that. Been in a weekly buy for a while. I don't even put them on the spreadsheet. It's been in a weekly buy in hogs since, what is that, July, right? July 31st that week. And hogs have gone from 50 cents a pound to almost 70 cents a pound, or is that 70 cents? Yeah, that's went to a high of $70.70 a pound, or yeah, something like that, I guess. And I guess that's a whole hog. Is that right? I guess it's 70. Yeah, 70 cents. Not $70. 70 point, almost 71 cents a pound. That's what it is right there. Celeste, how you doing? I just really hope blood is not spilled. Well, the founding fathers always said, sometimes the tree of freedom, or the tree of freedom, sometimes has to be renewed or something like that, trimmed. And so I don't think there'll be too much. Well, you probably saw most of the blood already spilled, in Seattle and Portland and Washington and Portland, in Oregon, in Wisconsin. You've seen the blood already spilled. You've seen a lot of that blood spilled, with Black Lives Matter and Antifa. Isn't it weird? Antifa has a flag that was a Nazi flag. What is up with that? I don't understand how the media lets that go by every day. They're using a Nazi flag from the 1930s, from the brown shirts, for Antifa, and no one talks about it but some of us here that watch reality, So we've probably seen most of the blood that's going to be spilled. So you don't have to really worry too much from there. So here you can see hogs. They've climbed all the way up from 50 cents a pound to, in a weekly buy, all the way up to 70 cents a pound. So they're doing pretty well there. Yeah. I'm sorry that I arrived late. Unless no one's ever late. This is recorded either way. Even if you missed a little of it, don't worry about it. Forget about it. In the words of Hillary Clinton or The Godfather, take your choice. Forget about it. or Schiff, the congressman that was all out there claiming that it was a Russian hoax going on over the weekend. Can you imagine that? This is they played that for 3.5 years and they're still saying it. It's a Russian hoax. The poor Russians. What? Let's go look at the. You know what I want to look at? The ruble, the dollar ruble. You got to wonder, when is that dollar ruble going to start to fall? And start to become more valuable again. After they get rid of these clowns that have tried to. Biden was part of that Crimea situation. People in Eastern Europe should be pretty angry at Biden. Him and Mrs. Clinton tried to overthrow the Russian government, and the response was Crimea, and then the Biden Obama, the Obama administration did nothing about it. Remember, Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons to be under the nuclear umbrella of the United States, and so an invasion of its sovereignty is the responsibility of the United States. And Mr. Obama chose not to protect, which is a breaking of the treaty, which should make the Ukrainians pretty angry, not counting yet all these criminals running things over there, and Biden tied to it. So, I don't know. There's a lot of crazy going to go on. You've seen nothing. I can tell you this. If you think you've seen all of it, you have only seen the tip. This is going to go on for years. This is going to, Donald Trump is going to drain the swamps. He's going to drain it and get rid of a lot of these swamp creatures. So there's the ruble. I keep on thinking the ruble is going down into the 40s and 50s again. That's the way I see it. I think the abuse of the Russian Federation by the left in the United States has been horrible. I think a lot of that has been horrible, and I think it's just going to be cleaned up over time. All right. I hope that gave you the hogs there, IVB. If you have anything else you'd like to see, let it fly. We'll show it. Unless, if you want to see something, scream it out. We'll go to it and take a look. But yeah, the math has been doing a good job on the hogs. Hog-aroos. There's our hog-aroos. It's been in a weekly buy. It's like the reverse of the Turkish lira. It's been in a buy for, I don't know, what is that? One. Is there a 2 there? I guess 2. No, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Well, nothing's like the Turkish lira. The Turkish lira is now what? Line 17 on the spreadsheet. 46 weeks in a weekly buy. Wow. Hey, no problem. No problem. We follow all the grains here. And we follow, and grains and the meats, and there, you can see live cattle if you want to see live cattle. There's live cattle right there. You can see they're trying to sell off, but we've been in a weekly buy since the $1.08 a pound on cattle, and it ran to about $1.14, and now it's kind of trying to back off again. You can see it's been the daily sell for a bunch of days there, and it looks like maybe this week they push it into the sell. I'm not really sure. Hard to say. We'll see. Anyway, Let's shoot back to the currencies. Currencies, there we are. And let's take a look at, did we look at the Swiss? I guess we were, did we look? Yeah, there's the Swiss there. You can see the pressure on it coming down. Let's go over to J4X, take a look at that. Where are you, Mr. Mouse? There you are. Let's take a look at the J4X Swiss franc position. There it is right there. So you can see the dollar is weakening. And I guess that, that's where it's at. It is weakening. We did see, looking online, where is it at? We don't usually follow the dollar too much. You can see it's 4 weeks in a weekly buy right there on line 26. Is that right? Right there. 4 weeks in a weekly buy. And I guess it's been firm. You can see it goes up and down, And you can see how well this shows it, when this is rising, the dollar is rising. And then let's take a look at the euro. You can see right there. There's the euro. And you can see it's been in a downwardly slope, which means the dollar's been in an upwardly slope. But you never know, which product is being used to be a surrogate to the dollar. There's a lot of arbitrage games being played, and it's in other words, anything that's denominated in the dollar and is big enough will be used as a surrogate for the dollar. In other words, they don't have to do dollars. They can do like gold or silver or sometimes, like soybeans or corn, something that's traded so enormously that they're confident that when it goes up or down, it's following the dollar and less of the supply and demand. So I would imagine that's how we're seeing it play out right now. I don't know if hogs are that big. I don't follow the meats that closely on a fundamental basis. I only follow them through my experience around me, being a little small farm and / a quant trader. So I watch it through the quants more than anything else. They're usually the more accurate way of following things. So, all right. Let's see what else we got going on there. So you can see the euro. Let's see where it is on J4X too. Euro on the wall. There it is right there. You can see it's trying to turn up. Dollar's moving down just the way, the Swiss is showing it to be. And you can see, we see the lines here. It's trying to lift up. And we're looking at the same thing, which is really interesting. Notice how much it's having its issues trying to get back into that weekly buy. I don't know how much love there's going to be for pairs or the dollar. You would think, let's play out. Let's take the idea that Doc is right, okay? And usually we're pretty accurate. So let's say the markets are now interpreting that Mr. Trump has won the election, and that there was some profit taking on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, from the success of it. And so in other words, it's like November 4th, 5th, and 6th right now. And so markets are now going to start to adjust to the idea. And then I guess what there'll be is a nice little rally confirmation. And we should see some sloppy sideways down into the election because people should be profit taking. And then whatever money comes roaring in because of the success of the election could start before the election. In other words, it could start over the next couple of days and weeks. Now, Mercury went into what is really funny is that this news came out on the edge of Mercury going into retrograde, and everybody knows that's a big thing, for the markets. Markets always look at news and information when Mercury goes into retrograde. So, hey Daniel, how you doing? Nice action on the euro. Yes, there is. Yeah, I mean, it seems like, when the euro goes up, the U.S. stock market usually goes up, right? I mean, it's like a buying thing for some reason. Don't ask me why, because I guess it's a way to be short dollars. If you buy U.S. stocks, it means you need to buy dollars, right? And if you don't buy the dollars, then you're short the dollars. And so the dollar seems to go down as the stock market goes up because it's another surrogate to playing the system that way. Oh, you like the Astro trading? Yeah, Doc. I've been following. I used to. Who was it? Lloyd Cope. He was in New York City. Very good astrologer. Excuse me. And then I Robert hit from there, but Robert got a little crazy. And I talked to these guys, because I'm a market technician too. And so then Robert Hitt got a little weirder. And then now I've been following Merriman, but Merriman has gotten so political over the years, and his work is okay, it's good stuff. But I can do the same thing myself. I can do astrology just as good as they can do. So, I mean, it's pretty clear to how to do astrology and finance. So I pay attention to that stuff, but I don't talk about it too much. But I mean, I could give you just as easily the warnings as everybody else can about, the squaring of the planets and so forth, and, when there's pressure and sunspots, and, I can do the whole same thing too. I just don't because, my quant is better than the astrology. So, and it's always fun to watch the astrology be confirmed by my quant analysis. So that's always cool there. Forex. I think the Trump win has not sunk in yet. No, I think it's starting to. I think that's what happened last Tuesday. Remember, I was talking about it that way. It has that look to it, like profit taking, not calamity on the selling. I see a small pullback and sideways before a drive up. Well, you gotta, there's an old saying on Wall Street. You got to take them down to take them up. And you got to take them up to take them down. So what you try to do is you try to make the market look like it's rallying, and then you sell that short. But it's not really rallying because it's going to pause and make new lows, and vice versa. If you want to take them up, what you do is you try to make it look like it's being sold off, and then what happens is that it doesn't go to new lows at all, and instead what you find is going to new highs, that type of thing. Ooh, Daniel's saying something there. Remember I talked about it last week, and we put this chart up but that action. Where is it at? Let's go to that chart that I put up last week. As a matter of fact, I think I almost named it. Named the webinar after it. And let me show you that chart. And what it does is it shows the cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. And I'm going to close hogs out here, unless someone wants to look at grains. So we'll go like that, and then close. There we are. Okay, so now let's take a look at, where is it at? There it is right there. Okay, so let's look at this here. And so Bitcoin is on the top, right? And I was a little curious why Bitcoin had sold off and went sideways down most of you can see it was up. Let me put an individual chart up. It's in a daily. Did it come into the daily sell today? I think it's in a daily sell today. Just a 1, I think. No, it's in a daily buy. Okay, so it went back in. No, it's in a daily sell. So there it is right there. But it's in 5 weeks in a weekly buy. Yeah, so it's in the sell. See it right there? It's in the sell. See right there. And so, but I thought that the product was, let's go back over to here for it. I was a little surprised. I saw a weakness in it that I thought was kind of odd. You can see this is a daily chart on it, much clearer. See, they kept on trying to making new lows and then lifting up in new lows. And now, why is that showing that it never even went into the sell? So it's still showing a 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 6 days in a buy. Why is it reflecting a sell? Let me just reload this. Yeah, so it's 6 days in a buy. That's not even in a sell. I don't even know why it has that on there. I don't know what I was looking at. No idea. And so you can see here, it's trying to lift, and in other words, it was making new lows. I didn't understand why they would be playing with new lows, and then they would make new highs. So there were outside days, and now it's showing even more life, and we're in a weekly buy from here. So I don't know. The cryptos look pretty good. Let's see. Let me see if I answered all of Forex. Trump win, drive, but anything can happen. Of course, nah. He's got it. I think that's what the markets are trying to tell us now. Let's see. So Daniel was looking at started bullish this week. Yes, and gold, silver might go bullish this week also. Oh yes. Matter of fact, I think gold is trying to get through the weekly buy as we speak. Let's go there and look. Yeah, see that? See that? Like right there. See, we got that going on. It's trying to lift through. It only went into the weekly sell last week. Went into the weekly buy the week before, fell over again. And you can see here, it's trying to get into a daily buy. Now, silver's in a daily buy with no problem, but it's having a lot of work to do to get up into the weekly on the time manifolds and all like that. You can see it's still underneath. It went into the sell here. Silver is such a different animal than gold. They march together on some level, but I mean, really, they took a 28% drop where gold barely took a 10% drop. 28%. I was waiting for it to go bang into the 19s. I honestly thought it was going to do that. I mean, really. I thought it was going to be a 33% drop. I mean, that's insane. I mean, it just shows you how thin this product is. And you can see here, we got the volatility dots here. Well, we had them there too, and we've had them there. There's a lot of noise going on in here. Was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days? We've had 3 of them out of the 6 days have been volatility signals. Like they're trying to figure out if they want to come or go. It kind of sounds like that Jimmy Durante song, Should I go or shall I stay? And you can see here that last big one where you didn't have all that noise, you just had it once. It was a nice little move from the 23 area or the lows of 22 all the way up to the 25 area. So this thing's a noisy thing. And look at this. We saw the euro do the same thing. In and out, in and out, in and out. And you can see there's not a lot of continuity to this stuff. Let's see about checking. Okay, I'll shoot over there. Let's see where the yen is. You would think that the yen would break away from its lock with the dollar solely because what if they move some of those factories? They're going to move, China is going to go back to its, China claims it's an emerging nation. Basically it's been a colony of the United States. And only thing is that they own the equity, whereas the colonialists usually controlled the country. We just had our factories there. We were using the labor, and to a great extent it was slave labor. And don't ask me how the Democrats find that to be appealing. But in the end result is that we're going to be moving most of our factories out of China. And I wonder, Thailand, Japan, a lot of other places are going to benefit from it. And a lot of them are going to come back to the United States. And China is going to go back to being the emerging nation that it was without us. They're going to have to start doing their own creativity, I guess. But you can see here's the yen, and the yen is trying to lift up. You can see we're through the weekly. Let's see now, when there's more yen to a dollar, so you get 106 yen to the dollar versus 105. I guess that's losing value, right? So in other words, if there's like 80 yen to the dollar, it's the dollar is able to buy less. It costs less to buy yen. Is that right? Yeah. So if it goes to 100, we're right now at 105 yen to the dollar. So if it goes to 110 yen to the dollar, we have to spend. No, we get. I guess so. So the dollar is gaining against it. I guess that's what it is. So the dollar is gaining against it. Well, I would think that Japan will benefit from the demise of the I don't know, colonialism of China. I don't know what you want to call it. What do you call it when you have enormous factories there? You're buying $500 billion worth of goods out of it every year. I mean, we were buying $400 billion, $500 billion of goods. Dollars were pouring into China. Now it's going to go the other way. It's going to be like, 150, maybe, $150 billion worth, or $200 billion worth of goods, or $100 billion worth of goods. Now China is going to have to earn its own. It's going to have to work for it. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. Let's see. Gold, silver might go bullish this week. It looks like they're trying it. What about checking the yen? We checked that. Free time, please. No, there's no problem there. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. Will there be some factories being opened up in China, in Japan now that we're in China, or Taiwan, or like I said, Thailand, or Vietnam? In other words, are we going to see it distributed? I would say yes. We'll probably see it distributed. Let's see. So where else are we at now? What about checking? Okay. So Forex says, hi, Daniel. I just shorted a little gold 20 minutes back. Failed to break up from its 4-hour range. Interesting. We kept those charts for you. Let's go over there. And let's take a look at, I think we have the 4-hour chart in gold still. I don't see it. Let's try that again. Okay, we were looking at there. There's the 4-hour chart. Let's put gold in there. And right there. It's just waiting for the data there. But you can see they went up into the 20s, huh? Interesting. And if we go look at it individually on a daily, as we did before, you see it's trying to climb up also. That's the key right there. The weekly's trying to turn up. You see if it's filled in. There it is. So there is... You see here it's still lifting up. And it broke down here and fell. Now it's trying to lift up. We'll see how this goes, but this looks pretty good. I guess we need the white line to break the time manifold there. Now you see what happened when it did here. It climbed up through it on that spike, and then here the white line broke the time manifold and started heading for the 0 line. But it really didn't go down too far, only about $8 or $9. Over a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or 4 times 4 is 16-hour period. And so you can see here it's trying to lift up again. Huh. Now there was an interesting one. Let's tighten that up a little bit like that. Boy, that came across, what was that, on the 7th, right? So it came across and held really well for a couple of days. Nicely. And then when it broke the, broke the time manifold here, on the downside, just like it gave the all clear when it got through the time manifold there, it started to break down, and then you had your sell-off. And then here you can see you had it through the spike, and then it broke down and failed. But it was that's how you take it down to take it up. In other words, you don't go too far. You don't break this low or this low here. You just take it down enough to get some sellers in there, so you can buy it cheaper. And then what happens is that it lifts, it breaks through the time manifold here. You see, first it breaks through the 0 line here on this one. And then, it keeps on doing it. And then it tries to break down. Again, they're trying to get sellers to come in. That's what they're trying to do. They want them to sell them so they can, remember, buy low, sell high. And so the money is trying to get sellers to come in so that they can buy it cheaper. But it keeps on making higher lows. So they're not getting enough sellers in there, so it's moving up slowly. And then you'll probably get one of these type of things on the upside. It'll be like a spiky type thing. It goes, That's why we're seeing the weekly starting to penetrate right there. That all makes any sense to you? I hope it does. All right. Let's see. Now where are we? I guess we'll go back to the currencies again until someone jumps out with something new. Let's see what the cable's doing. Cable. There you are. Now, cable closed in a weekly... Oh, we needed to put the line in there. The weekly buy. Closed in a weekly buy last week, which we were talking about all week long, thinking that it was going to, and that, it's talking about doing a hard Brexit. So, it's like awful hard to take them too serious. Now, in this case here, you can see it took a lot of work for it to get into the weekly sell to begin with, and it just wasn't that exciting, a weekly sell. Went into the sell here at the top of this move, but, it caught the move up here in the buy, but the sell has been very anemic, not very strong, and it's done its best to try to climb up, and you can see we've gone into sells here, and then we go into a buy every time, and it goes up higher. It goes into a sell, and then we go back into a buy again, and it goes up higher. And then you can see here they tried to push it into the sell, and it still is. They're trying to get this thing to, I don't know, maybe they're trying to get sellers to come in again, trying to get that, Bitcoin just started rocketing. Let's check that out. There we are. Yeah, I see that. It's up $150. And it's acting well. It's in the weekly buy, and we can't get the time manifolds up. I'm not sure why that's not doing it, but we'll have to try to figure that out. You can see on the daily time manifolds, it's refusing to back off on that stuff whatsoever. And, it's being tenacious. It's being tenacious. So maybe this thing's going to go into one of these big long runs now. I've been disappointed that Bitcoin didn't get back up to the $18,000 or $19,000 area on that last run to all-time highs. But some of the other cryptocurrencies did, didn't they? They went to all-time highs. And I guess that's because this has a futures contract, so it has more sellers, whereas the other products don't have as many sellers. Now, if they create an ETF that matches up to those other cryptocurrencies, we'd probably see them much weaker, IVB says, yeah. And not by much, though. 0.6. Silver up 2.3 today. Yeah, that's silver something. After listening today, let's see, Daniel. After listening today to Doc, I will keep my Bitcoin longs open longer. Yeah, I don't blame you. I keep on hoping and expecting the cryptos to really become independent of all the market forces and move into its own characteristic. In other words, imagine this. Let's speculate a little bit, though. What would make cryptocurrencies truly weaker? Okay? And then let's say, what would truly make cryptocurrencies stronger? Well, obviously, the first answer is what would make them stronger and weaker is the lack of confidence in the government currencies, okay, and governments in general, right? I mean, that's what cryptos are all about. They're supposed to be the alternative to the old mainstream equity, a currency market, transfer equity, however you want to describe it, right? Doesn't that make sense? IVB and Daniel, they are supposed to be the alternative, right? They're supposed to be. So when you see a weak global government currency market, you're supposed to reach for cryptos. You're supposed to buy those suckers. Be long them. And so vice versa. When you see a more responsible global government and one that shows longevity, that is going to survive beyond the next decade, then obviously you would be a seller, or let's put it this way, you would be less of a buyer of the cryptos. Cryptos probably fall into the category now of what the old fund managers used to use before there were calls and puts, before there were option derivatives and futures derivatives. So in other words, a money manager would buy stocks. They would get the idea that inflation was coming and that they needed to hedge the assets. Okay, exactly what the cryptos do. And so they would run to to metals. Instead of having 2 or 3% of your portfolio in metals, they would move as high as, say, 5% of their portfolios, which is doubling their position. You take a bunch of funds, Axhawk and B and all these other old, equity funds, and the Vanguard Group and so forth, and they would amplify their portfolios with 5% of gold and so forth versus, say, 2% of gold. And it would lift them up, and at the same time, they would liquidate some of their stocks. They would profit take and get rid of some of their stocks because they didn't want the inflation to hammer their stocks at the time. And so I was expecting that the cryptos would take that position. They would take the new position of that. And so if we're seeing strength in this product, the cryptos right now, it's because they're concerned about the old financial system having longevity, right? That would make sense, right? Right. Maybe? Okay. All right, so Daniel says dollar Swiss going down hard. Right, so they're selling dollars. Swiss gaining a lot of value. Exactly. So now, are we seeing the shorting of the dollar and buying of the equity markets? Let's look at the equity markets. So let's take a look at that. Let's go to the S&P 500. The global index in a sense. So it's trying to go into a buy. Let's refresh that. It's trying to go into a buy. And we also can see when we go to here, where we were looking at the 4-hour gold, we can take a look at the S&Ps. 36 tick. 3,600 tick. And you can see there, the product is up 25 points. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up a couple hundred points. And so it's, as much as it's got a red dot going on there, that's when we widen it out, you can see the product is higher. See, it's higher. And so money is starting to try to come back in again. And so stocks get bought, dollar gets sold. Or what they do is they don't buy dollars. That's what it is. They buy the stocks, but they don't buy the dollars. And so they are short dollars, and we see a weakness in dollars. We always see that. And that's that action we see. Now, let's go to, let's put the Dow Jones Industrial Average up there. Let's go to my option page. That's where I keep those. Okay, and there's the Dow Jones Industrial Average. As you can see here, it's holding up well. We've got green dots. It's in a daily buy for a few days here. Whereas the, which is kind of interesting, is the S&P 500. This is a daily, right? So let's go to the S&P again. And as much as, you can see the Dow's in a weekly buy for a couple of weeks. And let's go to here. And you can see here, it's also in a weekly buy for a couple of weeks. But it's been in a daily sell for a few days here. So they're trying to take this down. So they're selling S&Ps, buying Dow stocks, hence trying to make it look like there's sellers out there when there's not. Take them down to take them up. It's an old expression by the New York specialists who used to run the markets religiously for a century and a half. Let's see. Some funds, Square and MicroStrategy, others bought more than half $500 million in cryptos. Yeah, I saw that last week in the last 3 months. And so Bitcoin is gaining value for institutionals. Yeah, because now there's calls and puts on it too. You got a futures contract and you've got calls and puts. So you can hedge yourself. They all want to put 1% of their portfolio in Bitcoin. Makes sense. Exactly what I was just describing. Back in the old days, funds used to put, 1 or 2, they would carry anywhere from 1 to 5%, depending on what they thought about the economy. When they thought the economy was going to be in trouble, they used to own 5% of the metals. And when this is before there were calls and puts and future contracts. Well, there was futures, but there was no calls and puts. Calls and puts are really the answer. Ever since the creation of calls and puts, you don't have to liquidate your position. You can just put collars on. We've done webinars about option collars, how to hedge yourself with them, and how not to take yourself out of your portfolio. So, all right, and that makes total sense. And and $500 million is a drop in the bucket. I mean, imagine how much more room there is. What it probably tells you, if they've plowed in 500 million over 3 months, it shows you how thin the market is, and they're nibbling, and they're just going to keep on nibbling. And as the market gets bigger, then they will buy more. Next thing you know, a quarter will be, instead of half a billion dollars, it might be $1 billion or $750 million. And as it becomes more liquid, and that's what funds want. They want liquidity. And so when they have liquidity, they can participate more. So let's see what silver's doing. See if silver's still jumping. Still, it's jumping. It be jumping, as you said, 2.3% up? It be jumping. Now we just need this baby to get moving. That's what we need. I think the weekly buy is, where is I could go figure the weekly buy number out on how this math works. But at this point in time, it's fascinating just to watch the lines. I'd rather do that and do the math. Let this thing do the math nowadays. I like that a lot better. Let's see what copper's doing. Copper's trying to lift up. It's been in a daily buy for 3 days. And it has been in a weekly buy for 2 full weeks. It is playing with the time manifold there. But I guess what we'll do is we'll have to see if it gets going. Well, look how high it is. It was down to 230 no more than 6 months ago. So it's up like, what's that, 24%? 25%? No. 240 to $3. Yeah, it's like 26%. So that's pretty good. So they're reaching for the metal product. And again, China was very beneficial to the copper market. So with the United States taking its colonial capitalism and moving it to other countries, which we're doing now, China is going to be back to the size of Japan or about the same or something like that. The size of India, that type of thing. They're messing with the wrong guy. Trumpy is a genius. I was thinking this morning, if they made TV commercials of Trump being a Democrat, they would be so wildly envious. They would have him labeled as the second coming of Jesus Christ. But when you look at the commercials the Democrats put up there about him now, because he's a Republican, he's the antithesis of evil. And so it's kind of funny. If someone would make a commercial pretending that Trump's a Democrat, it would be like, he would be like, the second coming. It would be wild. It would be funny. I was thinking of that. It's crazy. Just a crazy idea. That's from my political days. When if I was his campaign manager, which I used to work with his campaign manager, we were friends. We've been friends for years. I should suggest that to her. But, they're doing fine. They have their whole game plan. Kellyanne is very sharp. I worked with Kellyanne for years. Oh, my God. She's a South Jersey girl. Yes, indeed. A Blueberry girl. She's Miss Blueberry of Hamilton at one time. Uh-huh. All right. Where do we go from here? Let's go take a look at the Turkish lira. What are they doing with that? I always get a kick out of looking at that. Let's see. Turkish lira. Right there. And right there. Woo! We got a red dot and a volatility thing going on. Look at that. I don't know. What's that all about? There, the last one. This is the last one. What did they do to the poor thing? It went from the 7... where'd it go? It went from the 7... almost 750, right? 748. It went to all the way up to here to the last one. It almost went to $8 handle. And then there was one there. Volatility dot went from 735 close to 748. That's a nice little move. We're in the weekly buy. Oh, you can see that. Look at that. The line is bending down like this. Maybe we're going to get some. Maybe they're going to try to take it down to take it up. They're looking for sellers. They're trying to drive the sellers into the market so they can buy it cheaper. That's what it is. Especially in something that's so illiquid. When you have something that's very illiquid like that, you really need to play that game of trying to convince the longs to sell to you so you can buy it, so you can take it up. Because you're going to, in other words, you're going to buy, a bunch of it. But you don't want them to know you're going to buy a bunch of it. You want them to think they're suckers and it's going down and they're buying. It is funny, the market card game. That's what it really is. And that's what options did. They removed that card game. So the old-fashioned style, like this product, doesn't have any options to it. So it's, it's on a massive rampage, as you can see on our fact check spreadsheet. So you can see that right there. On a massive rampage, 46 weeks in a buy, 14 days in a buy. There's no options to this thing. And the economy has gone from 1.5 handles to under the same leadership all the way up to almost 8 handles now. So obviously the plan is to drive this thing higher. Who knows? Maybe Aragon is short his own currency. Maybe that's what it's all about. Maybe they're short their own currency. And so they just keep on allowing it to go, higher and higher and higher and become worth less and worth less. And maybe the family's doing really good with it. I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense, right? Guy's been in power. The product's gone from 1.5 to almost 8. So, I mean, like, wow. I mean, something's going on there, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you didn't want it to go to 8, you would change the policies, right? So I guess they want the currency to go higher. I mean, what else? How else do you understand it? I mean, I don't. I don't know how to interpret it any other way. So if they've allowed this thing to keep on going up, they want it to go up. I guess that's the answer to it all. Hence, 46 weeks in a weekly buy. All right. Where do we go from here? Canadian. Let's see what Canadian's doing. I thought Canadian was all over the place. You can see it's in a daily buy for 3 full days. That's on line 20 on the spreadsheet right there. You can see that. 3 full days there. And 4 weeks in a weekly buy. But look at it. They're starting to drive that down. Just the same. Turkish lira in it has a habit of moving in the same direction, which is interesting. Even why it does it. But it does. And you can see here, we are breaking the zero line. Throughout all this weakness, you can see we broke the time manifold there. And we went into a daily sell. That was an interesting slide. And then it tried to pop up again. They're trying to get more buyers to buy so they can sell it. And now we've got the weekly playing down on the downside here. So the pressure is on the product. So, okay. And remember, traders, just because I'm going through the list doesn't mean you can't ask a question. You can say, okay, what does Alpha Centauri stock look like, or IBM, or what's this one I follow? There's one I follow for a client. It's the Aussie. What is it? The Aussie Yen. What an interesting product that is. Let me go. Should I open that up and show you? That is interesting. The Aussie Yen. Let's close this. What an interesting product that is. And just this again, this is the Bitcoin here. You see it climbing up. You see here, this is the, what is this? This is the NASDAQ 100. It's holding firm. They're moving in the same direction. Gold is trying to lift up with it. You can see that. You can see here, this is oil. Oil is trying to lift up with that. They're coming from these lows here. They're all coming from those lows. And then what is this down below? I forget what this is. Oh, I know what this is. This is the dollar in a sense. This is the dollar Swiss franc down at the bottom. So, here, I'll just show you. Yeah, so it's the dollar Swiss franc at the bottom. So that's what's going on there. And you can see the dollar is going down. And this is going up. And I guess that's... Now what is interesting is that when the dollar was rising, Bitcoin did bottom right here with that, right? Yeah. Let's put a line in there just to take a look at it again. I'll make it white like that. There we are. So, okay, in the beginning it rose. The dollar was rising. And gold fell down. Okay. And the NASDAQ was falling down. See, when the dollar goes down, notice the product likes to go up. So see here, the dollar is now going down there. right? Right there. And what's the stock market now is going up in value, and Bitcoin is going up in value. Gold is rising, and in this case here, what is that? That's and oil. Well, oil made a new low, and then now is rising. So it's always interesting how that inverse relationship moves between them all. All right. Matter of fact, I guess we could. What should we call this? I don't even know what to call this webinar. I want to say, this is what I want to say about it. I want to say I want to call it Markets Interpret Trump Victory. That's what I want to call it. I mean, does that sound good or bad? Or should I talk about cryptos instead? Anybody have an opinion? We'll just throw it out there and let you figure out what it should be. And then we'll submit it and go from there. Let's see. Let's see. Forex and equities. Show Trump win. I think that's the way I look at it. This is Forex says the market have been interpreting Trump's victory since March. I agree with you. This is why we are at all-time highs. I agree. I know I agree with you. Also, it was artificial. You know, in other words, it was an artificial sell-off to begin with, just for those funds that went out of business. Remember, those volatility funds have gotten collapsed and they're gone now. So you don't have, look at the VIX. Where's the VIX? Let's show you the VIX. Where are you, VIX? Do I have it on this chart? I think I do. Yeah, there it is. Is that it? You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this one. Oh, no, I want to do this. Let's close. That one's okay to stay. We'll close. What are we going to close? Let's do this. We'll open this one up. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. I posted it on my LinkedIn. Where's it at? It's right here. Where are you? I just have to figure out which one it is. Okay, right there. There we go. And then we're going to put it on that same chart there. That's what it is. Watch this. You're going to love this. Look at that. I was really dissecting this thing. And I put it up on LinkedIn. I'm going to make a copy of this. And we're going to put it on that other chart. And then we're going to go to this one here. And paste it in. Paste, 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 paste window. There we are. Okay, now we're going to close that one again. Close. And then it's right here. Now this is the volatility. The volatility funds are gone. They went out of business. That's what drove the markets down the worst. Is that they had to sell equity to hedge their short option volatility. And there's only one way that you can hedge short option volatility, and that is you have to sell equities hard and short. You have no choice. You just got to sell the daylights out of them. And so that's why the Dow was going up going down like 1,000 and 2,000 points at times, because they needed to sell. They went out of business. They made from like 2009 to 2008, I guess 2020, 12 years, they made billions. About 3 or 4 of these volatility funds. They were selling them so hard, so consistent. I mean, they were just pounding the daylights out of them. And then, everything fell apart. They were betting that the Fed put would protect them. And they made billions. And then they lost billions and went out of business in February and March of this year. And so those funds are gone. So there were like 5 of them, and 3 of them are totally gone. And I'm not even sure what happened to the other 2. They might have been able to close themselves and go do something else. But 3 of them went bankrupt. So they made billions and then lost the billions back to the marketplace. And so you can see here, we were putting in the volatility dots. I did that. There's volatility dots there, and there how it acts with the volatility dots, and the time manifolds and so forth. And we went into a daily buy Friday, and you can see right now they're very firm here again today, but we're still in a weekly sell. So we figured that it's and we got the volatility dot from that, and you can see the spike up the next day from it, and then it has not taken out that high. And as long as it doesn't take out that high, they're trying to trick the traders again to selling volatility. So in other words, or in this case, buy volatility. They're trying to trick them to buy volatility so they can sell volatility. That's what the game is right now. So we'll see how that plays out. All right, traders. It's time for me to get out of Dodge. Happy trails to all of you. Catch you on, what's today? Monday, right? So Tuesday. So happy trails to you until we meet again. And that will be Tuesday, traders.